Well, thank you very much, Andrew. I think you're spot on when you say this is where the rubber meets the road. It's incredible what technology has brought us to in terms of discovery, but it's translating that discovery and delivering it to patients is where it's at. And as we all know, the challenges these days in conducting clinical trials are onerous. Something to the tune of $1 billion per drug that is undergoing development, with 85% of them never making it to the patient or to the market. And there are many, many problems to this, and it's taking 10 years, much too long, not reaching the right people. And in fact, this technology is narrowing the population, in some ways making it even more of a challenge to do clinical trials because we're targeting a subset of populations. So some of the challenges are noted here, and the very exciting place that we're in right now is that we are developing tools to, in fact, meet some of those challenges. What I'd like to do, though, before I actually start talking about clinical trial matching, because that's what we're trying to do now, is using this technology, using information to match the right trial to the right patient in real time, so that patients do know that it exists. But to do this, it's been almost 10 years ago that Moffitt came up with a program that it called Total Cancer Care. Fairly ambitious in its title alone, but the idea was develop a system that identifies all the needs of a patient and their family. And then having identified those needs, develop an approach to meet those needs. And then if you're really good in the process of following patients over time, develop a means of creating markers that will predict need, so that you can intervene before the disease manifests. That is total cancer care. Identify needs, meet needs, predict needs, and then intervene. So to do that, we had to ask patients permission to follow them throughout their lifetime, not just while they were being treated, but throughout their entire lifetime, through the various journeys that they take. And again, we call that total cancer care, so it's a true partnership with patients, creating evidence, learning from every patient that allows us to follow them. So there are necessary components in to do that. We wanted to, one, study their tumors using this molecular technology and apply that into a data warehouse. At the same time, we're taking their clinical data and putting that in a central data warehouse. So we needed a biorepository to handle all of this, and truly we need an information system that networks all the stakeholders, obviously patients, but also caregivers, policymakers, researchers, clinicians, regulators, all who can make use of this kind of data and ultimately improve care overall. Now, to do that, we created a protocol. This protocol is now entering its 6th year, again, in partnership with patients. I believe it's, I've been told, the largest observational study in the United States following patients with a biorepository. So we asked these 3 questions. Can we follow you throughout your lifetime? Will you allow all your healthcare data come into a central data warehouse? Second, will you allow us to study your tumor using the genetic, genomic, molecular technology, doing those assays, putting that in the central data warehouse? So all of this is coming together. And most importantly, if we find something that might be of use to you, will you allow us to recontact you, such as there is a trial that you are suitable for? Now, we started this at Moffitt, but even though we're one of the largest cancer centers in the United States, Florida unfortunately has a lot of cancer, we knew that just following patients at Moffitt was not sufficient. So quickly, within the first year, we had 9 partners in the community. And oh, by the way, 85% of cancer patients are treated in the community, not at places like Moffitt. So we export the technology, export and improve access. So 9 institutions in Florida and another 9 in 10 different states overall. Enrolling now over 400 patients per week on the same protocol, same SOPs, with the tumors coming to Moffitt in our biorepository. We knew very quickly we surpassed our capability of taking in this data, taking in the number of patients that were being enrolled. So we created a company. Moffitt can do that. It's a standalone cancer center. So we created a company solely to implement total cancer care at Moffitt, as well as our 18 partners. And this we called M2Gen. It's on the same campus. And totally, again, workforce, totally dedicated with 152 employees, taking in the tumors in the biorepository as well as the data. This is just, we use the Nexus freezers, all automated. By the way, our consent process is completely electronic. Patient watches a 7-minute video on a tablet. I wish it were Apple, it's not, but it's anyway, I won't go there. They watch the video. If they care to enroll, they sign the tablet. It's downloaded immediately in the data warehouse. We have never lost a consent form. And again, this whole effort is essentially electronic. Now, here's where we are to date. We're entering our 6th year. Again, 18 sites. Almost 85,000 patients have been enrolled at a clip of almost 400 per week. 32,000 tumors have been collected. Not every patient enrolls has enough tumor that actually can be considered in excess beyond diagnosis. So hence the reduction here. And almost half of those profiled using various technology, gene expression profiling, SNPs, as well as sequencing. And this was done, as you might imagine, this is extremely expensive. We've spent almost $500 million in the first 5 months. So a key partner has been pharma, in particular Merck. Now, with all this data coming in, genomic data as well as clinical data, we needed a system. And this too required partnerships. So with Deloitte, Oracle, and Transmed and others, we have built a health research informatics platform that is now allowing us to create associations. This amount of data is huge. This fits the criteria of big data, which you'll hear others speak about. So in the effort, we have so many disparate sources of data which give the patient, it's the same patient, but it's a different code. So you have to have a cohort identity, and basically we created a factory to harmonize all this data and then put it in a central data warehouse, which now allows us to query the database and create associations. Very excitingly, we came up with different portals. As you might imagine, each stakeholder has a different question. They want to access the same data, but from a different perspective. The researchers are using the data now for new drug discovery, for prognostic indicators, markers, and both academic as well as industry. And again, I mentioned some of our partners, especially Merck, in this initial endeavor. One area that we're particularly very pleased about is the patient portal. We formed 5 years ago when this protocol launched a patient advocacy and ethics council. These are advocates not only at Moffitt but across the nation, as well as ethicists, to help us determine what could we give back to every patient. And without hesitation, they said, give us back our own information in a usable format. So 3 years ago, we opened the patient portal. They have access to all their labs, all the data in a discrete format, in a format that they can use. It is becoming the infrastructure for their personalized health record. And obviously, we are hopeful that they will actually put data beyond cancer into their database, because then it becomes their personalized health record. This is, and we do satisfaction scores, patient satisfaction scores, like every other center. We get the highest scores on this patient portal. Patients want this. 75% of new patients seen at Moffitt open their portal before actually being seen at Moffitt. That's how promising this is. And of course, administrators for things such as meaningful use, and then the clinician view. This is a decision support tool. Let me just fast forward very quickly. 3 years from now, hopefully even sooner. A physician in Lakeland, Florida, enrolls a patient with breast cancer, sends the tumor to Moffitt. We do the diagnostic molecular profiling. That same physician that enrolled that patient can now say, how many patients in the database look like the patient I just entered? What were the various therapies used for that patient population as defined with clinical and molecular characteristics? They are subcategorized. We are following these patients over time. What is the outcome? What is survival and quality of life associated with each therapy? Now, that physician in Lakeland, Florida, is able to use evidence-based medicine for what is best for that population. And so clinical trial matching is a derivative of that. And as you know, again, many, many challenges to doing clinical trials. I am pleased to say that we were recently highlighted in an article in Nature just a couple of months ago on one way to fix clinical trials, and that way was find patients. So that is what we've been able to do. We've created the database, enrolling 400 patients per week. By the way, this must be scaled enormously. Our biggest challenge now is finding more partners that will do this in terms of enrolling patients. But we believe that by using this technology and the database, we can make trials faster with fewer patients because we're actually finding the population that is most appropriate for this trial. And then, of course, biomarker driven. So the database, is built. I don't have time to show you how we use it, but in a very quick way of using the health research informatics platform. But what was taking us literally weeks and months to do one query can now be done in 5 minutes. And so it's extremely popular. This is sort of the iterative process that we go through. So a company comes to us and says, this is our inclusion and exclusion criteria. We think this is the marker, the putative marker or target for that patient. How many patients in your database, in this case, say colorectal cancer, meet these criteria? And we actually did this. We came up with a metastatic colorectal trial, 344 patients. And as you can see, how many had a biopsy? How many were available for assay? And you go through the iterative, and we wound up with 30 trial-ready patients in a very quick, short period of time. It was actually 37. We also had to develop a means of recontacting patients. It had never really been done before. So we, again, with our patient advocacy and ethics group, asked them, what is the best way to notify you? And they said, tell our doctor as well as us. So we do it both. Now we engage the physician who's referred the patient to the database. You can see the incentive for the physicians. The more patients they enroll, the more likely they'll have patients who are appropriate for trials. So there's an incentive-based or built into this entire process. Now, this is just one example of a trial that we did with CTEP, a branch of the National Cancer Institute in Drug Discovery. In this case, Jonathan here, the PI, had a gamma secretase inhibitor through Roche, and it was to hit a particular target, the Notch molecule. We went to the database, and of about 300 patients that were eligible, at least on paper, we found 37, enrolled those patients in 4 months. This trial was completed from letter of intent to final patient enrolled in 10 months. That's unheard of. But that is the power of the database. Now, what we're doing now is taking it to our colleagues in the community. This happened to be just patients at Moffitt. So you can imagine the enthusiasm, if you will, of the community. The more they are involved in engaging the patients as well, the faster we can do this. Now, here are the various approaches that need to be done in order to do this. Initially thinking that companies would come to us, or anybody who's introducing a new market, of find the patients and enroll them. What we found, though, is that they wanted to engage us much sooner. They want us to work with their biomarkers, so using the biorepository, we can do a quality assessment of their biomarker. What is the feasibility? What's the percentage of the population of the overall patients have that biomarker? Can all be done prior to actually opening the trial. This is very exciting, and I can tell you an example. One company came to us with a signature, and they said, we think this is high in this disease. We found that very quickly. We said, yes, you're right. It is very high in that disease. Oh, by the way, it is also high in 3 other diseases they had never considered. So the design of the trial changed immediately before beginning. And they are aware of this going into the trials. So again, the power of the approach of information and following patients. Now, ultimately, this is where we want to be. I heard our speaker, Jamie Haywood, talk about following individual patients and exchanging information. That is critical. It is called a rapid learning information system. And that is where we need to be. And we, about a year ago, wrote a paper on how different stakeholders can come together and form what in essence is a health research information exchange. Moffitt can't do this by itself. It will take stakeholders and partners. In this case, we've been working with Deloitte, Oracle, Merck, and I can go on and on. But together, and again, with partners such as patients, we will ultimately, hopefully, very, very soon, create a health research information exchange. Clinical trial matching is just one derivative or product that can be obtained through this effort. Thank you very much.